Hello, my name is Aaron Balke, and I'm here today to announce an update of the Guac emulator, an emulator for the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and Nintendo DS. After the last update, a lot of folks had mentioned trouble using the command line and the configuration file in order to make changes, and so the first major aspect of this update is a UI overhaul. There's now the ability to open ROMs directly from inside the emulator. There's the ability to edit configurations and settings without needing to use the configuration file. And this entire UI overhaul does have customizable colors, overlay toast notifications for example, if a controller gets connected or disconnected, if you mute or unmute. There is controller support for the entire UI, so you're able to change settings, you're able to even edit text inputs. There's a on-screen keyboard that will show up and all, so everything's completely controllable from the controller as well. And there is also English and Spanish language support at this time. If you're interested in helping out with adding more localizations, please let me know. Another major request with the last update was ARM and Android support. At this time, there is not Android support. However, we are slowly making progress to get there. With this update, there is now a ARM JIT compiler for the Nintendo DS. This does speed up DS emulation significantly on ARM hardware. Most notably at this time, Raspberry Pis. The other major aspect is there is now a website for the Guac emulator, guacemulator.com. At this time, there isn't much there, just some configuration information. But in the future, there may end up being a blog or something there as well. So guacemulator.com will be another source of news and information. In other small updates, there is integer scaling now. There is the ability to specify exact ratios, so 1:1, 2:1, 3:1 scaling, or you can dynamically adjust the integer scaling, so whatever size the window is, it will figure out the closest ratio and fit it to that. A major place of improvement with this update is the Game Boy and Game Boy Color emulation, which now is about 33% faster. This was achieved by adding a scheduler to the Game Boy and Game Boy Color emulation instead of using polling for event handling. This means instead of checking for events after every CPU instruction, we just run those events right at the time we know they need to occur. This means things are significantly more accurate and performance is significantly better because there aren't constant checks for things. While the Game Boy and Game Boy Color don't necessarily need those changes, it was already getting 4,000, 5,000 frames per second, so 6,000 frames per second doesn't really matter. But the exciting thing is we're able to take those changes and those lessons learned and apply those to the Game Boy Advance and Nintendo DS. And currently at this time, I've already started ripping up the Game Boy Advance and adding in a scheduler and making it more accurate. And hopefully for the next update, there will be a more accurate and more performant Game Boy Advance emulator. That is the newest update for the Guac emulator for Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and Nintendo DS. If you have any questions, concerns, any feedback, anything like that at all, please let me know in the comments down below, and hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.